everyone, it's Brennan. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I have 22 backlist books that I want to read in 2022. This list also includes series in general. These are all authors that I have read from. Most of them are authors I've read from and really enjoyed. Maybe a few are authors I've read from and I'm giving a little bit more of a chance. And lots of these books are from the same authors. But let's get into this list of 22 books and series for 2022. I want to read more Brandon Sanderson in 2022. I only read one Brandon Sanderson book last year, which was Rhythm of War, his most recent Stormlight Archives book. But I really want to start his Skyward series. This is more young adult and this is science fiction. I know we're following Spencer, this main girl, and her father was a pilot, like a space pilot. And he did something that like dishonored their family and she can't be a pilot, but somehow I think she starts like looking for maybe some kind of, I'm gonna call it a magical object. Not completely sure, but this series has 2 books that have been released in it, and I think his next book that he releases may be in this series. And then another Brandon Sanderson, I want to continue in his Mistborn universe. This is the first book in the Alloy of Law trilogy, which is, I'm gonna call it a spin-off from Mistborn because it's like, I'm guessing it's the same world, but it's like the same powers. Like they have their metal type abilities. But the Mistborn series was an adult fantasy series and certain people can consume different metals, and depending on which metal they can process, they have different powers, and then the people who are Mistborn can utilize all the metals. And I loved the Mistborn series so much. It was like each book came to a conclusion and then it was like we kind of had a plot twist. We learned something completely new that just keeps the series going, and I really want to continue on with that. And then I'm so excited to put this book on my list. This is House of Earth and Blood, which is Sarah J Maas's first book in her Crescent City series. The second book comes out I think in February of this year. So weird to say this year and mean 2022. But also I am reading this with Sahar from Basically Bookish Reads for her Fanro book club. This is an adult fantasy series. I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I've heard it's not as romance heavy as people expect it to be, which kind of makes me excited. But I think there may be like angels and demons in this, and one of my friends just finished this and said the end had her crying. And she said it was happy tears, so I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I'm excited to be here. And then I really want to read everything that Penny Reed has ever written, and I want to continue reading her Knitting in the City series. This is the first romance series that she came out with. The first book is Neanderthal Seeks Human, which I read and felt okay about, didn't like love it, especially compared to her Winston Brothers series, which I read in its entirety, which for me is huge this past year. And I really just want to have all of her backlist books read so I can just, you know, eat up those new releases that she has. And I've read books 1 and 1.5 in this series, and I'm excited to continue on with it. And then in 2020, I guess, or maybe 2019, I don't know, I read Helen Huang's first book. It's not this book, it's The Kiss Quotient, but I really want to continue reading her books, and I haven't read The Bride Test either. It's on my shelf. It's just like buried in a bunch of books, which we're gonna handle in an upcoming video. But I really want to read The Bride Test and The Heart Principle. I've heard such mixed things about The Heart Principle because it's not as romance heavy. Like maybe this leans more towards general like literary fiction. But Helen Huang writes romances and they have really just special characters, and The Kiss Quotient, the main character has autism. So she kind of just has that aspect. Is that neurodivergent? Is that the like sub-genre topic I'm talking about? Let me know if I'm wrong. But I really want to read more of her in 2022. And then bear with me because I'm going to put 5 Colleen Hoover books on this list. I really want to read Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. I think this has a mother and a daughter in it, and I think they both lose someone and then it's their separate stories. And then I also want to read Confess. I have both of these 2 on Kindle. I don't know what Confess is about at all, but I'm putting it on this list. And then I want to read Ugly Love, which is another book that exists on my shelf, but oh, here it is. Oh, you cannot see that. Can you? It's right here. I just didn't dig it out. I want to read Ugly Love again. Not sure what it's about. And then I want to read November 9 again. am not 100% sure what these books are about, but I know they are probably romantic and will probably destroy me. And then I want to read Maybe Someday, but this is the one I'm the most nervous about because if it doesn't have cheating in it, I think there's a relationship that gets tested or maybe ruined and they're like generally happy already in their relationship, and then our female character comes along and starts some stuff. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure. Also, I think this has a lot of music stuff in it. There's like a music sheet here. And then when I talked about authors that I might want to give a second chance to, I want to read The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. And this book's already not starting out good because it looks like it has this cool step back and it's just like praise for Kristin Hannah. Anyway, I read Winter Garden by her last year. Did not like it at all. But I hear really good things about this book. And my friend Kirsten from Kirsten's Corner loves Kristin Hannah. And I think maybe I just got a bad book, I'm not sure, but I want to read more of her backlist because people just love this woman. Oh, The Great Alone is like an Alaska story, and our girl's dad has some trauma from the Vietnam War and then he moves his family to Alaska. That's what I know about this book. And then I want to read more Beverly Jenkins. She may be my favorite historical romance author. She writes mainly American historicals, and the relationships tend to be like kind of low angst. And when I say that, I mean the couple communicates with each other. They're both on the same page. They have really adult, mature relationships, and it's just so refreshing. And then what's so exciting is the plots of her books. And I would really like to read Indigo. I'm not sure, this might be one of her earlier books, if not her earliest book. I want to say it's a Civil War romance, and our female character is like helping aid people maybe in like, I'm not sure. I don't want to talk too much, but I know our male character gets injured and she has to care for him. And then I would like to read more Riley Sager. He has a new book coming out this year, but I really want to read Home Before Dark. I just love this cover so much. And this is following a girl who I believe her dad wrote a story about a house they lived in, and then she goes back to live in the house, or maybe like she finds out that they still own it and she didn't know about it. Very Haunting of Hill House vibes, but I hear really good things about this book and I would love to pick it up. And then, did you all know that Tessa Bailey has a paranormal romance series? I think it's called Phenomenal Fate, and the first book is called Reborn Yesterday. And I think our female character is, she's not a coroner, but like she works in a morgue, so maybe she's a mortician. But she gets this body and it's not dead, and I think he's a vampire. And I just did not know this about Tessa Bailey, but I have these on Kindle and I'm so excited to pick them up. She is one of my favorite romance authors. And then one of my favorite books of 2020 was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and I would really like to read The Glass Hotel by her also. I've heard not the most amazing reviews. I think it's kind of like set up to where you're interviewing different people who had been guests at this hotel, and then there's like an underlying story. I'm not sure, but I would really like to pick this one up. I think she may have a new book coming out this year, but I really liked her. Was Station 11 a debut novel? If it was, that's amazing. And then I would really like to read more from Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, who are the authors of Zodiac Academy. They have kind of a prequel series, but I think they're kind of writing them at the same time as Zodiac Academy. But this series is called Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac Academy. I think it's what it's called. The first book is Dark Fae, and I would really like to pick it up. This is Kindle Unlimited fantasy romance, that's what I'll call it. And then I would really love to read more Sophie Lark. I read There Are No Saints, which was just truly one of the best books that I read in 2021. And I know Sophie Lark has a lot of mafia romances, which I actually haven't read a ton of. So I would really like to read, I think it's her Brutal Birthright series, and then her Kingmakers. If I'm looking down, I have my notebook right here. Her Kingmakers series, but I know she has a lot of mafia stuff, and I would just love to read more of her romances. They are so toxic and messy. I love it. Speaking of toxic and messy, I've got to read more of Penelope Douglas. I really want to read the Fallaway series because I think some of the books she's coming out with in the future are a spin-off to that series. I mean, the first book's called Bully. It's bully romance. I think it's in high school also, which I'm sorry, but I'm just here for, so say what you will. And then I would love to read more Tessa Dare. This one is When a Scot Ties the Knot. This is in her Castles Ever After series. The first book is called Romancing the Duke. I would really like to read it. I've only read her Girl Meets Duke series and I loved it so much. I know this one in particular is this girl pretend writes to a fake fiance. Like she just writes these letters so people think she has a fiance. And then I think she like tries to say that she got married but he died just so she can be a widow and do what she wants in society. But the guy she was writing to, she just like wrote a random name. He actually got her letters and then he shows up after this war and is like, hey, I'm your fiance. And that just sounds like so much fun. And then I also want to read more Kerrigan Byrne. I read The Highwayman by her this year and it was so good. And I want to continue on with that series. That's her Victorian Rebel series. And I also want to read How to Love a Duke in 10 Days. I've heard really good things about it and I have it on Kindle. Would love to pick it up. And then a little different, I would like to read more Grady Hendrix. I've only read one Grady Hendrix book and it wasn't my favorite. I read My Best Friend's Exorcism and just the way it was written, I just never felt like truly engrossed in the story, but people love his books and I would really like to read The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I've heard this has some really like actually horrific scenes in it. Would love to experience that. But this is set in, I don't know, maybe the 70s or 80s, and this book club decides they don't want to read like these classic boring books anymore and they start reading, I guess, vampire books? I'm not sure. But then they get a new neighbor who is a vampire and then I think they have to face that and maybe he like joins their book club. I'm not sure. His books are just kind of like ridiculous yet also horrific, I guess, and I would like to read more. And the last book and author I'll talk about, I would really like to read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I read One by One by Ruth Ware this year and I really liked it. And I hear a lot of people say great things about The Turn of the Key, so I would really like to read it. I would also really like to read The Death of Mrs. Westaway, but she has so many books and I would like to read more of them. So those were 22 books and series I would really like to read in 2022. Let me know some books that you would like to get to this year. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one.